Welcome to Spiritual Rockstar Podcast, where world-changing spiritual entrepreneurs come to deeply awaken the power within to bring forth their greatest purpose, to create massive awakened impact for millions of souls around the planet, while enjoying being in tune with all life and real wealth in all aspects of their lives. I'm your host, Daniel John Hanneman. And hello, everybody. Ahoy. Welcome to Spiritual Rockstar Podcast Show. All right. So, like everybody says, right? Like, I just like to have fun. Like, oh, you know what to do. Click the subscribe button and hit that bell. All right. But yeah, seriously, subscribe. All right. It's a lot of fun here. We have a lot of fun. So subscribe, keep on tuning in here. We got an amazing guest today, Lisa Marie. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Daniel. So excited, and I love to have fun.
Yeah, yes. We've just been having an incredible time. It's like spark connecting, right? Like it just feels. It's just like it's how Soul Tribe is sometimes. Like just wow, it's just fun connecting, and we have a lot of fun connecting and getting to know each other recently. I've definitely been aware of you for a long time, Lisa Marie. I mean, I've seen your name around, but recently we got to connecting, and just really grateful for what you're up to and the impact you're having in the world. So let's go ahead and let people know more about you. Lisa Marie Platske left her career as a federal law enforcement officer after 9/11. Now that's a whole big story in itself. To become the CEO of international leadership development company called Upside Thinking, an award-winning leadership and human behavior expert recognized by the White House and Small Business Administration. Lisa Marie has coached or trained over 100,000 leaders since opening Upside Thinking in 2005. That is amazing. As a certified master coach, she works with business leaders around the globe and is a member of the Forbes Coaches Council. Lisa Marie utilizes her master's level coursework in Psychosomatics, Galactic Signature Blueprint, and Life Purpose Path in her leadership legacy work. An international best-selling author in 5 countries, Lisa Marie has written 7 books and is a regular contributor to Forbes.com. In 2015, Lisa Marie was recognized by the International Alliance of Women as one of the top 100 women making a difference in the world. She lives in Alexandria, Virginia, with her husband, Jim, and amazingly, their pet, Fox. All right, how cool is that? So we're talking about someone who's really, really fun, cool, and then is doing amazing things and has done amazing things already and continues to do amazing things. So Lisa Marie, it's just so delightful to have you. And tell me about your pet Fox. Let's start there real quick.
I love that. Oh, I so love it. My pet Fox. So when I left Miami and moved to Alexandria, Virginia, Miami had such a specific culture to it, and it was definitely more of city life. And I moved into an area that is up against some, I guess what you would call forest land. And I was fascinated because there is a fox that would come to the neighborhood. There used to be 2, and now there is 1, and it will come to the front door. It will come to the back of the house. It is like a pet fox. So it is not a pet fox that lives inside my house. However, he frequents the house, and I have birds outside, and for whatever reason, he will live peacefully with the birds. Every so often chase them, but generally, leaves them alone. And I just think it's great that you can live 7 miles to Washington, D.C. and yet have a pet fox.
Wow, that's really cool. I mean, that shows the magnetism you have. You attracting in all this cool energy, including the Fox energy, and
yes,
it's really amazing the signature that you carry on so many levels, and I'm just so grateful to share you. We're talking about designing your destiny today on that topic, anyway, and you came from federal law enforcement. That in itself is pretty remarkable, right? I mean, um, yeah, I think that's pretty remarkable. I mean, come from that background and now to be doing this leadership work combined with this deep spiritual work that you do as well. I mean, listen, going from a federal law enforcement officer to doing Galactic signature blueprints, it's not what most people are up to. So, and then you're making such impact in the world. Because, one of the things, maybe we could talk about this as we talk about your background, but one of the big things people wonder is like, if I talk about how to do Galactic signature blueprints, everybody can take me seriously. Oh my God, maybe I should take those things down off all my websites. I better not let anybody know about it. They'll never hire me. And so, tell us about your journey of moving, from doing the federal law enforcement officer during, all the way up and through 9/11, and then to what you're doing now.
It's so true. It's that piece and like, oh my gosh, are people going to think that I'm a crazy person? Are people going to think that that I have just fallen off my rocker and that I have heard God speak to me since I've been 6 years old? Like, that sounds weird. And I really get that. I will tell you that when I was in federal law enforcement, I used to have these things called Saint Feast Days. And I would buy hot dogs and hamburgers or something for the grill. And the guys would say, what are we, what's up today? Like, what are we doing? Because it wouldn't necessarily be the 4th of July or Memorial Day or Labor Day where there would be a barbecue. And this was in the New York area. And I would say, oh, it's St. Francis's feast day. And the guys would say, oh, who's St. Francis? And I would tell them a little bit about, who St. Francis was. And it was the time in my life where I was starting to move from the being hidden, all of the parts of me where I only saw certain pieces of who I was as acceptable, to all of me, my faith journey, the things that inspired me. And the guys would say to me something really interesting regularly, and that is, you don't belong here. And I found it to be so fascinating. And they said, you really should leave. You should leave and you should go off and do something else. And I remember sitting at my desk saying, what in the world would I ever do? Like, I loved it. I loved the blue uniform. I loved the badge. I loved the gun and the boots and the enforcement aspects of it. There were things that I really appreciated about the job. I appreciated how much the guys that I work with had your back. And even though some of them early on didn't want to work with me because I had, long fingernails and long blonde hair, and that too was sort of deemed as sort of weird. There was an element where it gave me the opportunity to begin my coming out and the sharing. It was the journey of me being able to follow the breadcrumbs and find out, well, geez, how do you live a life where only certain parts of you are acceptable? How do you live a life where you only have certain pieces that actually are ones that you get to share with other people, and other parts you have to keep secret? I mean, there's something really weird about that. And there's something not healthy about that kind of energy too, when you do that. So, that was the beginning part of that was in law enforcement. And today, when I think about that, I started off as a leadership development company, and I never shared those things. I shared the tactical. I shared the how to position yourself. I knew how to write a bio and how to help people write proposals and great marketing copy. And those are the things that I could do, and how to establish connections and go to networking organizations and be able to quote in quotes get business. And what I discovered, in my own journey and in my path, was that in my business, just like in the government, there were parts of myself that I had made unacceptable. That they weren't parts that, even though there were things that I did for my journey, like family constellations and pendulum testing and using the psychosomatics and the galactic signature, they weren't part of my business journey. And when I started to bring those together and make them acceptable, the alignment for me in who I am as a leader the journey became much easier.
Mhm.
And yet I will say there was that great fear, like, are people going to think I'm a crazy person, for saying these things, for sharing these things, for talking about numerology or astrology or whatever it is, the lunar eclipse or the whatever in the work that I do. And now I just find it's just more information.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, there are so many people listening. They're empathic. They're light leader people. I just use that term, light leaders,
Mhm.
and some of them are in a position where they are still acting as though those things aren't really part of their gig, And there's someone listening right now, I'm sure, that is in that position, or they are in that area, but they even have wilder things that they're about that they're not going to tell. I work with the ETs, and that's how I actually do my clearings, and nobody knows it, or whatever it might be, right? That they're hiding something in the closet, right? So, but
Yeah.
yeah, I thought that was really good what you talked about there, because there's so many people that are listening that they feel very awkward about this idea of being the spiritual rock star, because what they want to do feels so deep and so big and so weird and different from what's happening right now and so innovative. They just feel like, based on their past life experiences, like, I'm just gonna get mowed over. It's not gonna work, is it? I mean, like, so there's almost an assumption of like it won't work before you start, even though they're focused on it, perhaps, right? They're maybe trying to bring that forth, but it seems like at some level, like, well, that won't work. You're gonna get taken out again. So they closet it, and I know so many people over the years that said, yeah, I'm never gonna put it in my bio. I do this other stuff because, I just, it's no, I'm getting plenty of business. I'm doing okay. I don't need to do that. Um, so I'm kind of raising a few questions in there, but um, what is you could say like, hey, I did it, and tell us more about that journey of making that shift, really being bold. I mean, you said like, yeah, I did it, and then you get all lined up, and we assume you're successful with it, that you're glad for the decision. But like, tell us more about like what that was like the challenges you faced in that, and what encouragement you could give to other people facing that sense of challenge to really be all of themselves, whatever that means to each person.
Oh, I love Daniel. We've had conversations in our own individual businesses about this, on the side. And I so appreciate you asking this from the standpoint that for me, it was a level of inauthenticity. It was like, so here I am, I'm this leadership coach, and I've worked with world leaders and CEOs and entrepreneurs and executives. And there's this part of my life that feels like it has to be a secret. And it didn't feel in integrity. It didn't feel in alignment. I'm connecting with people who want to make a significant impact in the world. And I'm recognizing that for myself, to do that, I've got to be in full and total alignment. And so I use variety of modalities to be able to do that. And I'm doing that to help make me better, and for me to learn, and for me to get rid of some of the layers of the things that weren't serving me, for me to bow down more to the divine, to truly be in humility. And yet there's this Pandora's box of that which I'm making unacceptable. And so that lack of integrity felt really crummy when I would be coaching somebody that had come to me, and perhaps they wanted my 7 pillars of leadership, or they had heard me speak, or someone else had gotten results from coaching. And then they would come, and it's like, well, what every person, whoever the coach or the leader is, they hopefully are on their own professional and personal journey of growth and development. And so here I am using these other modalities, but they're not anything that I'm speaking about because I recognize there actually was this element of shame. And so the inauthenticity is really what had me go, I can't do this. Like, this feels out of alignment. This actually makes me sick to my stomach. Like there's a part where it's not resonant in my body, and it's creating potentially a dis-ease, which can manifest into something larger if I don't actually speak my truth, if I don't actually, open myself up fully to whatever it is. And so I said, okay, well, how do I do that? Like, how, when you ask about the challenges and what I came up with, this was not something that was okay, bam, I'm going to do it. It was really more of a, what I would say if you use the term, following the breadcrumbs, and I'm sure most people understand that, it's like getting this teeny piece of divine wisdom and then following that, and then the next decision and the next decision, but you don't necessarily have the whole piece. And so I went, okay, so what if I, not out of fear, what if I just simply listened? And that's truly it. What if I just listened to when it felt like there was something else for me to share? And in doing that, what I realized is that I have this ability to blend practicality, practical business tips, entrepreneurial tips, leadership tips with spirituality and money and power. And it is this soul's awakening that ends up happening because I take all of those tools. And I'm mindful that when I'm in conversation with somebody, depending on where someone is on their own journey, whether they're just starting out or whether they've been doing this for many, many, many years, what I'll hear and what I'll get guidance on from the Holy Spirit, from Saint Michael, who's my protector, what I'll get guidance on is share this or share this. And sometimes I might work with somebody for 6 months, a year, and never utter the word galactic signature or life purpose path or family constellation. And sometimes I'm in the first session with somebody and I'm getting, okay, you should speak to them about flower essences. You should speak to them about, it'll be something that comes up. And so in following the breadcrumbs for myself, for my own life, I learned that if I listen to that attunement for my clients, that happens. And the challenges that have come up, honestly, have more been internal challenges than external challenges. I've had less clients say, that's weird, I don't want to do that. Even when I thought they'd have pushback, more so the voice of me going, okay, now you're going to be the crazy person. That's just it. Great. They hired you for leadership coaching, and they were just the CEO of this large entity, and you're going to give them that they need to have a family constellation. Like, okay, you're the crazy person. And so I have to say to the voice, which is not my truth, say to the voice, I just have to, I don't yell at it. I make friends with it. And I say, that's right. That might be the case. And yet at the same time, this feels like the right thing. So let's just trust that we're here for a reason. And everything that we're doing is doing from a place of love. And so let's just see. And so I would, like I say, that the fear more internal, definitely more internal than external.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's just being willing to be open to, stepping into that and exploring, when it feels big, because I find again and again for myself too, right now I'm stepping into something that feels bigger for me, right? So it's all part of our growth. But as we're stepping into it, it's like, really, I'm going to be doing that, whatever it might be. But like, really, me, I don't know. Like, it reminds me of the usual thing, right? In the Bible with Moses, what, me? I'm going to do this? You kidding me? Who am I? And then like when I've asked my guides about it, like the idea of not just being like for myself, like being a light leader to light leaders, it's like, Well, my ego says, "Oh, that's wrong. You're not any better than anybody yet." Like it wants to shame it, make it wrong or whatever. But like another part of me is like, "Yeah, that's right. I mean, that's what I do. I mean, I'm a light leader, light leaders. I know that's true." So that part that, oh, well, people like Deepak Chopra, they know way more than you do, and they're way more advanced than you in certain ways. And therefore, you could possibly be worthy of supporting those people. And like that kind of ideas in my head, even though there's an immovable presence inside of myself that says that absolutely means nothing. Like, and notice that means that
Yeah, yeah,
absolutely actually means nothing. So
yeah,
it's interesting. I mean, it's good. Like in my case, I actually can feel that part that knows that doesn't isn't true at all. But a lot of people, I think some part of them, they do have some recognition of that. And I think we have to continue to listen to that, right? Like you said, listening. And, I was just saying this, as a spiritual teacher guide myself, like, we all are, I think, on the show, I come on the show, but, it really, I mean, one of my teachers said many, many years ago, decades ago, when you're perfect listening for your life, I mean, like everything is like that's it. I mean, like when you're the perfect listening, right?
yeah.
And that's where it's at. We're so busy trying to figure things out, and who should I be? How am I going to brand myself? What's my identity? Oh, I should get rid of my identity. My identity's bad, or whatever. But if you're just perfectly listening in each moment, everything just kind of unfolds from there. And people think that's not enough, but it is. And so I'm having this conversation with you because I was just telling a client the other day about the listening part, and I'm like, oh yeah, the listening. So, but that's what it sounds like you do. You follow the breadcrumbs by listening, right? And as you're
Yes.
listening, like everything just like, oh, that works. That's safe. That actually is amazing. That works so well. I want to do so much more of it. Thank God it worked, right? And then you keep going and going and going. And but we have to, I think people could say, well, that's great. You guys are doing it or whatever, but they're still going to feel that fear, right? Like, no, I'll get there. One of the most common things I hear, at least Marie, I don't know if you hear this too. They always say, the mind always does this, right? Well, I'll do that eventually. I'll get there someday. Maybe I will. Maybe I will. Maybe when I retire, I'll let it all. I've had people tell me that too. When I retire, then I'll let it all out and I'll show a side of myself to the world. So what can you tell people are like, they keep putting it off as a safety tactic, right? Like, well, I will do it, but it'll just be later. Yeah, I mean, what can we share? I mean, because you can tell people the truth all day long. Hey, just listen, just do it anyway. Your guidance is telling you to do it. Why don't you do it? But how can we cultivate this listening that you mentioned earlier?
I love that. And I really appreciate your courageous vulnerability in speaking about well, what if this person knows better than me, or the Deepak Chopra, or the person who's done this longer, because I get it. My background is in law enforcement. It's sort of like, who am I? Who am I to be this person? And yet I'm really clear that this is mine to do. And I sat in the jungle in Costa Rica 2 years ago when I was going to give up my annual conference, Design Your Destiny Live. I had done it 10 years. I was like, okay, I'm done. I'm ready for a new assignment. And I heard God's voice say, this is yours to do. And I went, what? This is mine to do. So I really get it when there's that questioning, like, how could this be mine? Aren't you sure? Aren't you clear about all the things that I've gotten wrong? Even at Design Your Destiny Live, Daniel, last year, I had a disagreement with my husband on the last day. And I thought, how can I walk into the room and be training when things are not right? When I had this disagreement. And I went on stage and I was transparent about it. Like, here's what just happened on the break. Because when we hide those pieces, that creates some sort of fuzziness or dissonance in us. It doesn't, that alignment, people can feel us before we've ever even walked into the room. And whether that's on Zoom or something else, when you're out of alignment with something, it's not good. So when you speak about that part about, oh, well, okay, so then, what about the people who are going, well, how do I do that? I'm putting it off for tomorrow. The thing that I say with this destiny is that destiny is not predetermined, as in predetermined that your whole life is set and you can't change it. It's the actions you take today actually design your destiny. And so whatever you do now ensures that whatever it is that you want actually is going to happen. I just shared with a client that there's a show that's on Jingle Jangle. It's on Netflix, and I don't own a TV, so I can't say that I've seen it or anything like that. I just like the story. And the story is that in 1997, the gentleman who created the series, had written it, had done it 22 years ago. And so he does this, and then 23 years ago. So he creates the series for a platform that hadn't even been created yet, Netflix, which wasn't founded until 2007, something like that, 2010. So he writes it for a platform that doesn't exist, and then it doesn't get picked up, for a full 22 years. And so the actions that this person took led to his destiny, where this is a blockbuster, hit on Netflix. And so it's the actions that you take today that design your destiny, whatever it is that your soul's deepest calling is. And so if you wait, then how I see it is people who need you and who need you the most continue suffering, continue hurting, continue in grief, or whatever it is that they're in, because you weren't willing to step out. And so for me, it's always one action, one step. What is the one thing that I can do today to be a force for good on the planet? And every single day I ask myself that one question. What is it that I can do today to be a force for good on the planet? And sometimes it's picking up the phone and calling somebody I haven't talked to in a long time. Sometimes it's actually being a contribution in a way where it's financially supporting somebody. Sometimes it's writing a testimonial for somebody. Every single day, there's something that I do that says, how can I bring people together, do something that's of positive good? And when you do that enough and you put enough deposits in, you actually reap very, very, very big dividends. And so if there's something that's in your soul's calling, the greatest thing about it is that rather than saying, hey, I'm going to wait until I have all this time, or until there's space, or until there's, people aren't going to say something, or until I learn more, or I get another degree, or whatever it is choosing just to say, I'm going to do one small thing. It could be reading one page in a book. It's what's the one thing today? And I'll say to my clients, look, if you decide that every day you're just going to make one connection, at the end of the year, you're going to have 365 more connections. If you decide to do it once a week, you'll have 52 more. The bottom line is if you just did one action, that's it. And sometimes people get hung up on the whole big picture. I'm as much a fan of the no plan as the plan, meaning the no plan is me just following the breadcrumbs and choosing to do one thing every day to be a force for good. And when you do that, it just simply grows and grows and grows and grows and grows and grows. So I don't think it has to be that complicated where you have to have this big thing to push fear out of the way.
Yeah, and I think that's so important for someone like yourself to share that wisdom because of the work you've done in the world. You've worked with business leaders around the world. And if you're sharing, with them, hey, sometimes the best plan is no plan. Most people would think like, come on, listen, Marie, we're hiring you to tell us to have no plan. I mean, they would think like that would be crazy, right? So, but sometimes it really is the way it is. I mean, we can have all the plans of the world, and then those things may or may not happen, but if you keep listening and you keep following the breadcrumbs, that is what's happening. I mean, in the meantime, so one of my spiritual friends one time said this. He said, saying, I'm making plans. This was many, many years ago, decades ago, probably. But like, I'm making all these plans. I'm going to be doing this, going to be doing that. And he says, yeah, but just keep in mind is you're making plans. Life is happening. So like, it's like, you could think you're going to do all those things, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's the way it's going to happen. A lot of these people that are highly successful, I can pretty much promise you a great majority of them anyway, had a plan and then it happened another way.
Right.
Things happen another way, right, Lisa Marie? I mean, you can testify to this. So people are feeling like, I don't know what it is. I don't join the crowd with all these business leaders around the globe. But Lisa Marie has helped. It's helped at all different levels, at earlier levels and later levels, right? Developed
Yeah.
levels. I think it's important for people to understand, like, real leadership is stepping into the void, owning like your sense of your calling and owning all of yourself, and just showing up and doing what you're here to do. That's leadership. I mean,
Yes.
it's that simple. Everybody thinks leadership is some complicated thing. I personally don't think it is. I'm willing to be wrong, but I think it's in a way it's kind of very simple, like most things that sound complicated, like there's a lot involved, but really when you get down to the essence of it, it's pretty simple.
Well, it's influence. And so, leadership is you have followers and you have people who you're influencing.
Yeah.
And if what you're doing doesn't influence and it doesn't, then you can't have people who actually can follow you for whatever it is that you have, whatever your brilliance is, whatever it is that you want to teach or share with the world. And so that's what leadership is. And to have influence, there's got to be that sense of integrity, that sense of alignment in order for people to follow you. Otherwise, they go, I don't understand what that is. There's just something about them. I can't put my finger on it. And it's because of those pieces that are hidden or those pieces that, don't feel like they're safe to actually put out there. I remember when I wrote my bio and I wrote the first time, connected to God, Lisa Marie lets him lead. I remember writing that in my bio, probably 10 years ago and thinking, okay, this is really going to be, I'm putting this out there and companies are going to see this. And this is, I wonder what's going to happen. And nothing has ever happened, where someone came and went, I'm not hiring you for that. And if somebody did, and I don't know about it, and they didn't hire me, they weren't the right person anyway, because that's true for me. That is how I run my business. And so, that authenticity that you speak about, and that is part of the, putting yourself out there. It's just, it's so important to not get so tangled up in the word leadership as being this, 15 step. It's about being authentic and transparent so that others can follow you, so that you can have the influence in order for them to be able to be served in the way that whatever it is that you're here to do, that can make the world a better place. And you can't do that if you're not a leader and there aren't people actually paying attention to you, and you don't get to make that impact either.
Yeah, and the person that came, one of the people that came to mind. There's many people we could talk about, but Gandhi was one that I've done a lot of channeling with, especially in the past, and the energy of Gandhi. And I'm sure Gandhi never went to a 10-week intensive leadership training. I mean, he's busy just leading. I mean, he's just busy just being himself, doing what called to his soul to do, and he led that way, and much more effectively than so effectively. I don't know how to put it, like tremendously, hugely effectively. And I think, like, again, like something I was talking about the other night, it's like the simpler we can make things, the better. Because, that's always where, again, I found my own hiccups. It's like when I'm like, well, if I step into that level of leadership, well, then you start thinking about, am I worthy, right? Like you said, with the law enforcement background, wow, who am I to be taken seriously? I was never taken seriously there, and then over there it wasn't, or whatever, right? Like, I'm not being taken seriously, and I'm not worthy. I'm not good enough. I'm not the right one for that, I'm sure. And like, and if you got a persistent voice around that about something, you know what the truth is almost 1,000% of the time? that's meant for you. That's what the truth is.
Yeah.
So, but it's hard. It's so easy, really, in a way, once you're just willing to say yes to what's so apparent, but we make everything so complicated. And it's due to, I feel, fear and the programming that we've taken on, I suppose, right?
Yeah, I look at the opposite of fear is really love. And so when people are out of love, they're in fear. And love is a hard place to be in. It's a high vibration. I remember writing in my journal one time and writing, me and then colon, what's mine to do? And then I wrote God and colon, and I heard the word love. And then I wrote me, and I said, that's ridiculous. That's, what is it for me to do? And then I wrote God colon, and I heard, you make things too complicated. And I had to laugh, because isn't that the truth? Like, if love is the highest vibration, and that's what gets you out of fear, then the responsibility in any situation, even a difficulty and a challenge, or a voice of unworthiness, or anything that comes up, is simply to love self greater, to love other greater. That's simply the higher vibration. And so fear is not, the opposite of love is not hate, and the opposite of is people who are in fear, people who are afraid of another person, afraid of themselves, afraid of being seen or made fun of, or not valued, or whatever else. And I look at that as, whenever fear shows up, there's just a greater need for love. And that's really it. The people that I work with are people who are often already successful in some way, or they experience success in something, and they're looking at going, okay, well, what's my leadership legacy? How do I make a bigger impact? And that ability to show up and be love to all, that's a hard path to walk. It's not the easy journey. It's not for the faint of heart. So anytime I hear something where fear of anything, unworthiness, something else comes up, there's definitely the answer for me is, what do I need to do to love myself and others greater?
Yeah. I mean, I think, like, what happens is that when we think about stepping into our leadership legacy, what comes up is, well, if I step into a bigger container of who I am, it's that sense of that bigger container. There's going to be more arrows shot at me. I have more responsibility. I'm going to have to work harder. I'm going to be a slave to my purpose, and I have no free time to just mess around, do whatever I want. There's all these assumptions. I won't have that. So really, if you got all that stuff, it really, like, a lot of times I think people wonder, why do I make it so hard? Because that's what they're wondering too. Like, why can't I just do what I'm here to do? But really, there's a big case, that's been made for not doing it, based on a lot of assumptions that are completely false. Really, they're completely false. You can create it that way, if you're not careful, but all of those things can be false. So I know you're a master at what you do in helping people to live their leadership legacy as they're designing their destiny. So tell us, how do you help people to get the stoppers out of the way, so to speak, that are like, well, I can't because of this, my family, my kids, as it goes on, I'm too sick, I'm too this, I'm too fat, or I'm too skinny, or whatever it is.
Yeah. All those voices, right? All those voices. What are you listening to? There's something that's the SNAP technique. Mm-hmm. And there's I don't know if you've ever seen it, but there's a movie, Legally Blonde, and she has this Snaps cup, and everybody puts something nice in or puts something in, and in the movie it doesn't go so well. It kind of goes sideways in one of the scenes. But the snap technique is, and it's something that I'll do during the day, and it's to stop. So that's the S, because it's an acronym. The S is just to stop. And in the stopping, I'm actually, I'm breathing, and it's to notice. I'll do a body scan from head to toe, noticing, like, what do I feel? Do I feel it in my elbow, which is actually my heart, or do I feel it in my, in my hip, which can potentially be my ovary, or, do I feel it in my shoulders? Like, what am I actually feeling in my body scan? So noticing, that's the N. And then the A, asking questions. And so I'll ask myself questions. So when I'm in that space, which it does happen, there's no way to ever get rid of all of the voices that are designed to keep us safe. It's just simply to extend greater love. That's why I say when I understand there's fear and those voices show up, there's love. And so I'm asking myself questions about, is it true? How do I feel? What is it that I'm noticing? So if I stop, I notice, and I ask the questions. I then give myself the opportunity in the SNAP technique, which is the last word, the last letter is P. And that's to pause, to pray, and to pivot. I don't necessarily do all three, but it gives me an opportunity to pause so that I actually get to listen and take in the answers and notice. And then once again, breathe in some more love. And then I get to, sometimes I offer up a prayer, like, please take this from me. Okay, St. Michael, like I can't handle this on my own. Sometimes for me, it's, wow, I'm really feeling overwhelmed from all of this because I feel like I can't get it done and that I'm just not good enough. And so can you help me bend time? And sometimes I'll work on a project and I'll look at the clock and I'll go, oh my gosh, that only took me 15 minutes. That's crazy. And I know that for some in the time-space continuum that the clock has stopped and I've been given extra time, because that's what it feels like at the end of the day on certain days when I actually do that and offer up some sort of prayer. And then the pivot is me. What do I need to change? What do I need to shift? What do I need to energetically? And sometimes it's, it's me physically doing something like doing some body tapping. Sometimes it's me getting a glass of water. Sometimes it's just me pivoting the thought to go, that one's not serving me. Thank you so much. It's not helping. And I'm going to continue on with my work. So when I am in that sort of cycle and what do I do, especially if this is all aligned with me designing my destiny and getting out and what tools are there in the toolbox, I think the SNAP technique is so good because I can do it at my desk in just a few seconds or a few minutes. Like it's not, and I can do it multiple times during the day. So it's to stop, to notice, to ask, to pause, to pivot, and to pray.
Nice. I like that. Yeah. It's, we have to kind of interrupt, this broadcast.
Yeah, right? That's it. That's exactly it. Interrupt the programming. You got it.
Yeah, because a lot of times, if we scan and we see where we are, we already know like things aren't really working out, but we're kind of just going by unconsciousness, right? It's like, okay, I guess this is going to work again, whatever it is. And, I know where this is going. Oh, well, instead of like pausing, be like, okay, wait a minute, I'm getting this feeling in my body. Okay, let's listen in. Let's get curious. Okay, well, that doesn't have to go this way. Wait a minute, and then you get to pray, pivot, right? So like, wow, okay, and because I find this and things that, like something simple like when I play a video game, okay, let me put it that way. So if I play a video game and it seems like it could be anything in life, but I'll just use a video game as an example right now. But whatever you're doing, you're like, oh my God, this is so hard. It almost seems impossible. I'll never be able to get through this, whatever it is. In the middle of okay, I'll never get through this thing. And, but the smallest little bit of awareness and just like, wait a minute, that's not true. There's a way. I don't know what it is, but the infinite intelligence and power of me does. And I'm connected to that now, bang. And all of a sudden, like it just happens. You're like, oh, wow, I didn't think that would happen, but this knew. And it's just like, it's the most amazing thing when we can just allow ourselves to experience that dropping in and that that pivot, and all of a sudden it's like in some areas of our life, we could be totally transformed right on the spot, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly it. Because you could literally forget your divinity, your precious divinity that's inside you, and you could be completely offline from that.
Yeah, totally. So now you have much more to share with people, and so I know you had a free gift to give everybody. Again, you've worked with hundreds of thousands or 100,000 plus leaders around the world over a long period of time here, and you've got a lot to share with people. And you have this wonderful free gift to give to people. Would you like to go ahead and tell them about it?
Sure. The free gift is my influential leadership blueprint, and it's actually a practical document. I like business practicality with spirituality. I like the two of them, the practical side. So there's actually an activity for you to participate in this influential leadership blueprint. And it's about stepping into your soul's calling. If you are aware that you've got a bigger calling, and the world really needs you and your brilliance, this is a great document to move through, especially if you're looking to expand your influence, expand your impact, and make a bigger difference in the world.
Yeah, wonderful. And what are absolutely be able to tune in to that deeper calling. So specifically, tell us a little bit more about specifically how it will help them.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So I have in the blueprint, there's 3 specific tenets to influential leadership. And those tenets are actually in the blueprint, and then you have an opportunity to work them. There's also case studies that are shared in there in order for you to be able to see how other people have used it, and then what the results are that they've gotten. And so when you ask Daniel about the specific, what's the specific design, to be able to do this, it's to say, I am serious about increasing my influence, and I'm not 100% sure how I do that. I want to have more people to follow me, and not follow in the sense of, this is not a lead generation tool. This is really the beingness of my leadership, so that it's so attractive and so magnetic that other people want to follow me and they want to learn more about me. So you mentioned Gandhi earlier, and you're right. Gandhi probably never took a 10-week, how to be a better leader course. However, Gandhi spent his entire life, every moment of his life, working on his beingness in leadership. That if you were to hook his mind, his brain up to a scan, you could see that he was so fully present in the moment. And most human beings aren't. And most human beings really don't understand how what they're doing and saying and how they're behaving affects how influential they are, because of how attractive or what it is that might be depositioning them. And so that's what this document allows you to explore, so that you can become so magnetic and so attractive in your own leadership, especially if you have a deeper calling.
Oh, that's amazing. Okay, great. So go check that out at www.upsidethinking.com and take advantage of that, upsidethinking.com. All right, great. Well, we're at the time of the show where I like to do the mini energy scanning, with my guests, just for a minute or two. I'd love to share that with you today. If you'd like to receive, are you ready?
I am.
Okay, great. All right, so let's see. I already had some things coming through I probably wanted to share, but let's just tune in again. Yes. Yeah, this is maybe as much for you and like it's for the listeners and for you both probably, but I just keep getting that to tell the audience, especially, like, you want Lisa Marie on your side. It's like one of those things that's like you're a wind behind someone's sail. So if they feel like, man, we're not getting anywhere, Lisa Marie, here comes the wind. All right, now it's easy. Wow, where'd the wind come from? Like it's happening. So I get that sense of your energy, like how you work energetically with people. And then you happen to be a really great sailor too. So you're like, okay, well, if reel this mast in this way. I have no idea what's position it this way or that way. It's gonna get you there faster or whatever. And you better watch for that. All these details, like you can see the details of like where the pitfalls are. So a lot of people are like, rah, 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 do this inner development, but they're not maybe as good at seeing like where pitfalls are for people on a practical level as well. Like, so energetically and practically, you could see where the pitfalls are and say, yeah, and by the way, you better shore that up. Watch out for that. Yeah, it always comes down to the love, right? So it's not about beating up on people. It's just like, hey, just watch, let's clean that up. It's easy. Don't worry. So and then you find a way to share with people and help them implement things with greater ease. So instead of like, well, we hired Lisa Marie, man, we're working night and day all the time on all our plans for us. Oh God, we want to fire just because it's too much work. Instead, it's like, wow, I thought this would be an extraordinary amount of work, but it's really not that much, not that bad actually. So you may simplify and let it be easy for people. So so I see that about you. And then, yeah, I mean, as far as things that maybe you want to continue to expand for you, like you got the big openness in the crown. The third eye energy is a little jumpy. So there's still the other levels of channeling and working with people in deep, mystical, energetic ways that are available to you. But because of some of the issues, that are going on with the wobble around that, the logic analyzer, you could call it, or the wounding and all those different aspects. It's kind of hesitant. It's a little shy still. So it's kind of like, we're having fun, but let's not go too far just yet. So you can use more encouragement. I just noticed that piece. But you do utilize it, but there's just more potential, right? So that's what I'm seeing there. And then yeah, let's save the rest maybe for some other time or something. But anyway, I just wanted to share a few things with you today. So yeah, if you have any quick reflections or thoughts about any of that, that'd be great. And then we'll move on from there.
Oh, Daniel, I love it. I mean, I so love it because it's a both and for me. And the first part that you share, which is like the big picture and then the details, because I can almost see a vision board over people's heads.
Yeah.
Details of where they're to go, almost like a Monopoly, or a life path map, as if it was like a board game. And so that's interesting that you say that. And then when you speak about the crown chakra, being open and yet the third eye, and you use the word wounding, like there's an element too where I too am on my path and I too am on my healing journey. And there is the the element where there's more for me to expand and there's more for me to do. And yet there is an element where ensuring that there is safety for me. And so I can really I hear that from you, and I can feel that in my being. And I appreciate you having the safe space to be able to share that with me in a way that's just kind and loving, especially in a public forum. So I appreciate that, and I receive.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm grateful for your graciousness and receiving the what just is coming through. And I think the more we can have these sorts of being like we were saying before, right? We're demonstrating full transparency. Okay, I mean, both of us during this time together, it's like, okay, yeah, we're all up to growth. We're all up to expansion in this playground here. So it's an ongoing evolution. Yeah, the mind always wants to say, well, can I just fix some stuff and then we're over?
Right, yeah, and what I so appreciate about that is that you can say it's true that I have worked with over 100,000 people and coached and trained them, and there has been my writings for Forbes, and I'm featured on their on the front page of their website. there are a lot of things that I've done, and yet I'm still a work in progress. There's still more for me to evolve and grow and learn, and for me to step out in. And so, to be in the place of deep humility and the receiving is part of the journey. If I don't believe there's any time that we're going to get to me, that I'm going to get to the place where I go, okay, I arrived, like not at all, like that's not going to happen. And so that's why I receive, just so it's tender, right? It's tender, and at the same time, you made it possible for me to receive.
Thank you. And if people want to check out more about what I'm up to and what I do, go to yoursacredpurpose.com. There's an opportunity there to receive a meditation from me, for example. Meditate and make money meditation opens up your energy, gets you in those divine downloads, see what's wanting to unfold. And then there's also opportunities to connect with me or to get an energy scan consultation with me as well. So yoursacredpurpose.com. All right. Well, as we're wrapping things up today, Lisa Marie, I'm just so grateful for your ability to give and to receive, and for that humility and that beautiful strength you have in such a tender way yourself, and the all the aspects, like you really embody so many aspects of the steel, and I always talk about those different elementals. You've got like so many of the different elements coming together, and that's what makes you such a powerful force and leader. So I'm grateful to have you on, and I want to just leave you with giving the last words for today. So any last words for the audience as we begin to wrap things up?
Just a reminder that the world needs you and your brilliance. That's all.
Yes, that's right. Absolutely. Thank you. All right. And so it is, everybody. So yeah, there's a sense of that gap that feels so unwieldy, and yet it's so simple. It's so easy, actually, once we just step into it. But it's that wobble that we feel just before we step into it, that feels like the big doozy. And then once we step into it, it's like, whoa, I should have chose this a long time ago. So trust me, you'll enjoy it. Take that next step. All right, everybody. So reach out to Lisa Marie, go to upsidethinking.com, go ahead and take advantage of what she has to offer. And other than that, I just want to wish everybody infinite blessings and love. And again, just keep on tuning in here to Spiritual Rockstar Podcast, and we'll keep on rocking it. Okay, till the next time, everyone. Bye for now.
You're listening to Spiritual Rockstar Podcast. Stay tuned for our next upcoming new episodes each Wednesday and Saturday. Please be sure to subscribe, rate, and review to help us to serve you best. As a reminder, you can get your free Meditate and Make Money meditation at www.yoursacredpurpose.com to rock your sacred purpose. Goodbye for now, everybody.